Hello guys, back again on the Alrasta channel. We will again witness a Donghua with a post-apocalypse theme about MCs who can copy other people's skills. And of course, it is the First Order. For those of you who haven't seen the previous part, please look at the playlist on my YouTube channel or click the link in the description. Okay, without lingering, we will go straight to the storyline. Xu Xianchu, who had to survive the attacks of Wang Lei, the One-Eyed Man, and Lin Hao, the food carrier, was forced to reveal something related to his superpowers, where the man was able to create a shadow clone that had twice the strength of the real Xu Xianchu. And after taking down Wang Lei, Lin Hao, whose shots were now no longer useful against Xu Xianchu, began to feel scared. But unfortunately here, Xu Xianchu did not finish off the two people who intended to kill him. Because all this man wanted was to get everyone out of this dangerous place safely. And he also didn't want to hurt anyone. Considering he was a leader, that's why he wouldn't prolong the problem that happened this time. From another direction, after watching the exciting fight and resuming his meal, the MC was asked by Xu Xianchu to see Wang Lei's injuries. Because before traveling, Wang Chongyang had told him about the identity of Xiao Xu, who is a doctor who specializes in the treatment of external wounds. Xu Xianchu also hopes that Xiao Xu here will no longer pretend like before. Delaying his meal, Xiao Xu then checked Wang Lei's condition, and from here, Xiao Xu found that the wounds suffered by the man were very heavy. And of course, the diagnosis that was made by Xiao Xu at that time immediately made Wang Lei think that he would soon die. He also asked how much longer he had left to live. To show the answer requested by the man, Xiao Xu here immediately counted down from 10. Well, that made Wang Lei think that his life was now a matter of seconds following Xiao Xu's words.
9、8、10分钟.
But before the countdown was over, Xu Xianchu asked Xiao Xu not to joke because the attack he had previously directed was not a fatal attack. In addition, the leader had also previously heard from Wang Chongyang if Xiao Xu had a very powerful medicine. And on this trip, Xu Xianchu also felt very unlikely if Xiao Xu did not bring the medicine with him. Xiao Xu then emphasized that his medicine was very expensive. Besides, on this expedition he was paid as a guide, not to be a doctor. Xiao Xu was willing to spend his medicine to cure Wang Lei, but of course it was not free. It seems that the money brought by Xu Xianchu had disappeared after the previous paid trip, just as the civilian soldiers under him also had no money. But fortunately, Wang Lei had it, so the money problem is now safe. And because Xiao Xu could only treat the wound, while the laceration experienced by Wang Lei was quite wide, in order not to experience inflammation in the end, Xu Xianchu would be in charge of sewing up the wound experienced by Wang Lei. After Xiao Xu received his payment, Wang Lei also thanked him, instantly adding points to the acquisition of thanks from Xiao Xu's side mission. After finishing stitching Wang Lei's wound, Xu Xianchu then revealed the secret mission given by his superiors in the expedition he went on this time. Unlike Miss Luo Xingyu, who aimed to go to Fort 112 to hold a concert, Xu Xianchu and the other civilian soldiers here get the task of mapping and routing the journey towards the Jingsan mountain. Because it is said that inside the mountain, there is a ruin of civilization dating back to the time before the start of the era of disasters. This task was carried out so that the main team, who also made an expedition to the ruins besides their team, could more easily gain access during their journey. But after Xu Xianchu encountered various dangers in this place, he realized that the Jingsan mountain hides a mysterious power that makes animals evolve. The mysterious power may also be able to help superhumans like him, so he decided to continue. Actually, Xu Xianchu did not want to continue this journey because it was considered too dangerous. But now that his identity as a superhuman was known, it was impossible for him to return to Fort 113. So he had no other choice but to go further into the mountains to conduct explorations related to the ruins of past civilizations. And now here, Xu Xianchu will give everyone there two choices, namely to continue the journey or go back to Fort 113. This will be a choice where Xu Xianchu will not detain them as before. Of all the people there, who first made a choice was Miss Xiaojin, where she would go together with Su Shanshu and continue her journey to explore Mount Jingsan more deeply. She made this choice also because Miss Xiaojin felt that it would be safer to go together with a person who had superpowers like Su Shanshu. After hearing Miss Yang Xiaojin's decision, which felt quite rational, in the end most of them also chose to continue their journey. From the other direction, Miss Luo Xinyu, who seemed to be getting close to Xiaoshu, said that this woman would choose the same choice as Xiaoshu. If Xiaoshu came, then she would also join, and since everyone chose to follow Su Shanshu, they will all set off at dawn. And on this journey, Su Shanshu also has a rule, where everyone must obey his orders. And for those who are disrespectful, like what Wang Lei did before, then Su Shanshu will not give mercy to those who dare to misbehave. The next day before they all left, Su Shanshu here asked everyone, who among them wanted to carry Wang Lei, who could not walk with him? And among all the people there certainly would not be willing to carry the burden. And only Ren Xiaosu was willing to do this. This is not without reason he did, because here the MC had heard if the injured man had thanked Su Shanshu after being helped by him. Although Su Shanshu had refused Xiaoshu's wishes because he was a guide who had his own duties, because Xiaoshu shouted and said that he would still carry him and promised to kill anyone who tried to take this task from him. Then Su Shanshu had no other choice but to give this task to Xiaoshu, who was starting to act crazy.
谁敢跟我抢，我砍死他！
During the trip, Xiaoshu gave Wang Lei some medicine, rubbed Wang Lei's dirty face, and fanned the man, and all kinds of kindnesses were done by Xiaoshu with the aim of getting sincere thanks from the one-eyed man. And of course, Xiaoshu's trick this time proved to be very effective, where he received many sincere thanks from Wang Lei, who continued to get help from him. Xiaoshu, who was very happy because he got a lot of thanks, also made Su Shanshu and Wang Lei feel quite uneasy because the MC did not hesitate to show his strange reaction to them. In addition to seeing Su Shanshu, who had ignored Miss Luo Xinyu several times, from the other direction, Xiaoshu also noticed Miss Yang Xiaojin, who was holding a cute little doll. At the same time, Su Shanshu asked Xiaoshu if he could find food for everyone. Xiaoshu immediately replied, if he was not a god, how could he possibly find food for everyone? And how could there be a wild boar that crashed into a tree and they could be used as food after he said this kind of thing? And it turned out that a miracle happened because Xiaoshu's words were accompanied by a wild boar that hit the tree hard. And at that time, without further ado, Su Shanshu immediately used his power to execute the pig. And with this, the food problem is now safe. From this incident, Xiaoshu realized that this all happened thanks to the strength of the younger brother, who continued to use his strength even though Xiaoshu had forbidden him to use the power that would burden Lu Yuan himself. While skinning and cutting up the meat they got, here Xiaoshu gave Su Shanshu advice, if they should not keep what they cannot keep. And of course this refers to the pork they are now getting, because most of the dangers in the wilderness will be attracted by the pungent smell of blood. And unexpectedly, Su Shanshu here thanked Xiaoshu for the advice, instantly adding to his side mission points. When Lady Luo Xinyu came from the other direction, it seemed that Su Shanshu immediately went away from her. It seems that the man does not want to get close to this woman, guys. After Su Shanshu left, Lady Luo Xinyu then approached Xiaoshu, saying that so far it seems that Xiaoshu can have fun when they are in the wilderness. According to this woman, it looks romantic. Along with that, the woman also thrust her roast meat towards Xiaoshu. Xiaoshu, who realized that this woman must have something to want, had asked Su Shanshu to get away from her several times. But it seems that this woman ignored Xiaoshu's words, and she also suddenly started to get closer and closer. Until finally she said,
我喜欢你.
But it looks like it's just a joke, guys. Because actually here, the Lady Luo Xinyu wants to ask Xiaoshu for help to help her get out and return to Fort 113. And if he can do it, then Lady Luo Xinyu will give 3 entry quotas in the fort that Xiaoshu can occupy. But Xiaoshu, who felt that he didn't need it, immediately left Lady Luo Xinyu just like that. And after getting a refusal from Xiaoshu, Miss Xinyu then walked away towards the forest. But without the woman realizing if her movements have now been watched by Lin Hao, the man who previously gave her a lascivious look. The more you eat, the more thirsty you are, and that's what the expedition team is now feeling. Xu Shanchu here asked how to find water in that place. According to Xiaoshu, they can only find a river or collect dew from the leaves if they want to get water in these conditions. But Xiaoshu did not advise them to go to the river, so everyone can only hold their thirst until there is dew on the leaves the next morning. Xu Shanchu said, "Thank you again," instantly adding points to Xiaoshu's side mission. Along with that, there was also a shout from the direction of the forest, and the voice came from the Lady Luo Xinyu, who was confronted with Lin Hao, who was... But in the middle of the action, Miss Xiaojin, who found out about the lecherous act from behind, immediately pointed her gun at Lin Hao and made Miss Xinyu able to be saved. And when everyone also finally arrived at the scene, Miss Xiaojin immediately asked Xiaoshu to take Lin Hao's gun, which from now on would belong to Xiaoshu. And of course, such a great opportunity would not be missed by Ren Xiaosu, who immediately quickly took the gun along with the ammunition from Lin Hao's pocket. While threatening Miss Xiaojin, here Lin Hao felt that it was useless to give the gun to Xiaoshu, because he was just a person from the slums, and of course he would not be able to use the weapon. But only Miss Xiaojin knew that Xiaoshu could use the weapon like a professional just by seeing how the MC held it. And when everyone dispersed, Miss Xinyu here thanked Miss Xiaojin for helping her. Here Miss Xiaojin felt that what she did this time was appropriate, because Miss Luo Xinyu herself had paid Xiaojin with 5,000 yuan with the task of getting Miss Xinyu safely to Fort 112. But in exchange for this incident, young Xiaojin asked for the payment to be issued right now, and as a thank you for saving her, Miss Xinyu here gave Xiaojin an additional 5,000 yuan. And of course she gave it with the hope that Miss Xiaojin could help her get to her destination safely. But after seeing how dangerous their journey was, Xiaojin here could not guarantee that Miss Luo Xinyu could get to her destination safely. But at least Miss Xiaojin could make sure that Miss Xinyu could die in a decent way, in case she died on the way. And then, after everyone was full, the journey finally resumed. And after Xiaoshu wanted to help Wang Lei again on their journey, strangely, the gratitude given by the man did not add to Xiaoshu's side mission points. Realizing this, Xiaoshu then again provoked Wang Lei to say thank you. And from here it was finally discovered that the thank you points from Wang Lei were now no longer applicable to Xiaoshu's side mission. Because they were considered useless, Xiaoshu this time refused to help Wang Lei. Because he was no longer considered useful, Xiaoshu this time refused to help Wang Lei. And this change in Xiaoshu's attitude made Xu Shanchu feel surprised. And even Xiaoshu also immediately ordered the useless Lu Bu to immediately carry Wang Lei, who could not walk, while giving a threat to the useless man if Xiaoshu would cut him if he did not want to carry Wang Lei. In the middle of their journey, Xiaoshu found some trees that were very useful for quenching everyone's thirst a little. After climbing to the top of the tree, he immediately picked the fruit. And from this fruit, there are drops of water that everyone can drink to just quench their thirst. Xiaoshu also suggested that if they all still wanted to live, then they should follow what he did this time.
不想渴死的，可以跟我学。
When Miss Xiaojin climbed up the tree, Xiaoshu then activated his last skill paper to duplicate one of the high-level skills possessed by Miss Xiaojin. And from several skills randomly selected by the system, Xiaoshu finally got a high-level skill that was quite useful, and that was the skill of assembling bombs. Xiaoshu, who began to be curious about Miss Xiaojin, asked the system, "Does the target also have assassin skills?" And the system also explained that Xiaoshu had a high-level assassin skill. Besides that, this woman also has a high level of nursery rhyme skill. Unexpectedly, the pile of skills possessed by Miss Xiaojin is very strange.
唱儿歌技能高。
哎，
After most of the people had managed to quench their thirst, Xiaosu here demanded everyone's thanks. Because in this case, Xiaosu had also taught about how to survive in the wild, and the method implemented by the MC this time was very helpful. And at this point, he had managed to collect a total of 88 words of sincere gratitude, and it was only a matter of time before he could complete this mission. But it's different with men. Here, Miss Luo Xinyu could not get any fruit to quench her thirst, as she could not climb up the tree. So, here she was asking Xiaosu for a favor to give her some fruit, for which she would pay him 10,000 yuan. And without further ado, Xiaosu immediately took the money from Lady Xinyu, gave her the fruit, and stipulated that from now on, Lady Xinyu would be considered Xiaoshu's own sister. Along with that, Xiaoshu also received another thank you note from Miss Xinyu.
我吃巧克力。
好了吗？那你晚上吃什么？
As night fell, the rain came down, forcing everyone to seek shelter. At one point, Xu Xianchu asked the MC if they could drink the rainwater, and the answer was definitely yes. But if Xu Xianchu drank it, he would die because it was acid rain. After finding a cave that they could use as a location for shelter, they found several sentences engraved on the rocky walls. The sentences read, "We have seen strange black shadows in the forest area, and one by one, our team has mysteriously disappeared." Of course, the engraved sentences caused the situation to become even more tense. As a diversion to relieve the tension, Liu Bu thought that the sentence might just be a deliberately made-up joke, because during their journey after going through the canyon, not a single wild animal or human skeleton had been seen. However, this line reminded Xiaosu of Xuxia's previous corpse that suddenly disappeared from the pickup truck. And after investigating, Xu Xianchu believed that the sentence on the stone wall was written using a dagger. But strangely, Fort 113 itself had never sent anyone to explore this place, so it was most likely written by mercenaries from Fort 112. The assumption given by Xu Xianchu eventually created some assumptions. Some of them thought that maybe they were deliberately sent here to save the people of this lost Fort 112. But Lin Hao denied it, because he thought that such a mission was not described in their journey, let alone that this was a suicide mission that could not possibly be completed. No matter what the meaning of all this was, for Xu Xianchu, what they should do next was to keep a rolling vigil to make sure everyone was safe that night. And Xu Xianchu himself would stand guard on the first shift, and all of them would get their share, except for the girls. Miss Xiaojin here asked Ren Xiaosu to stand guard on the first shift, while Xiaojin herself would stand guard on the second shift, and the two agreed. But before that, Xiaojin will go out for a while. Xiaoshu wanted to go, but Miss Xiaojin wouldn't let him because she needed to pee. Does the MC have to come too? Miss Xinyu and Miss Xiaojin, who had just finished their business, returned. This time it was the turn of the two men to go out to do business. Shanchu also advised the two of them to come back soon and not to delay the time for smoking. Gathered in the middle of the fireplace, Xiaoshu, who was the only person from outside the fort here, asked, what exactly had all of them done while living in the 113 fort? Because Xiaoshu, who lived in a settlement outside the fort, always saw residents who had to feel hungry every day because they could not get enough food. And all the poor people also often said that the people living in the fort were rich and smart, living well and cool. For now, Xiaoshu has not seen all the people living in the fort, and now he can only see the personalities of the civilian soldiers, so he still cannot make a judgment. And explained by Miss Xinyu, the mercenaries, or what can be called private soldiers, are a collection of soldiers owned by the manager in the fortress, But there is a large family called the Qingxi Group, who does not want the fortress manager to grow into a strong and influential figure. That's why there are often conflicts that occur between mercenaries and civilian soldiers when they are in the same location, like in this expedition. While approaching the MC, Miss Lu Xinyu again asked if Xiaoshu could take her out alive because she had nothing left. So Xinyu started to show a sad face in the hope that Xiaoshu would do so and help her during this trip. But unfortunately, Xiaoshu just ignored her because the woman no longer had any money, especially since Miss Lu Xinyu was also just using him. After waiting for a long time, Xiaoshu and Xu Xianchu began to feel uneasy when the two men who had previously asked permission to leave did not return. Even though about 30 minutes had passed since they left the place, Xu Xianchu, who intended to go out to look for the two men, asked if any of the mercenaries there would accompany him to look for the two men who had not returned. And according to one of the mercenaries, perhaps the two men were deliberately procrastinating and would be back in a while, so there was no need to look for them. Xu Xianchu also warned that the next time there is a problem with them, don't expect them to be able to get help, because with such an attitude, there will be no one who wants to save the mercenaries because of their selfish nature. At the same time, Lin Hao suddenly screamed after hearing a sound that turned out to be just the sound of raindrops falling from the cave wall layer. Xiaoshu also explained that the raindrops that fell were the cleanest source of water they could drink because the water had been filtered by the rock layers of the cave walls. After being given an understanding by the survival master, everyone immediately prepared the containers they had to take water droplets from the cave wall in order to survive for the next time. While everyone was picking up the drops, Miss Luo Xinyu wondered why Xiaoshu didn't pick up the water like everyone else. And it turned out that, unexpectedly, the MC himself actually still had 2 sealed bottles of drinking water, and that was why he didn't worry too much about drinking water. In order to keep the 2 bottles of drinking water, Xiaoshu also tried to store them in the palace system room. But unfortunately, things like that can't be done because he doesn't have the authority, so just keep them in his pocket. And after taking enough water to survive, then everyone went to bed to rest except Xu Xianchu, who was on guard duty. Similarly, Miss Yang Xiaojin is also on guard, but the difference is that she will only guard Xiaoshu after the two agreed to cooperate to protect each other. Several hours passed, and this time Xu Xianchu's guard duty was over, and it was the turn of the 2 soldiers to stand guard in place of the leader. Under the heavy rain that night, when everyone was asleep, the 2 soldiers who had been on guard duty finally showed their true intentions, as they intended to kill Miss Yang Xiaojin and Xiaoshu. But unfortunately, the 2 mercenaries did not know that Xiaoshu and Miss Yang Xiaojin were actually pretending to be asleep. Here Lin Hao was shot by Miss Xiaojin, while the other mercenary was strangled by Xiaoshu and could not escape anywhere when Xiaoshu strangled him against the wall using only this one hand. In order to prevent Xiaoshu's actions from being disturbed by Xu Xianchu and the others, here Miss Yang Xiaojin pointed a gun at them. On the verge of death, Lin Hao then asked for help from the driver, who didn't seem to know anything. But because of the actions of the 2 men, in the end the driver must also be considered as a plot to commit treason. At the same time, Xiaoshu then gets a mission that asks him to kill the enemy and give him a happy death. Hardening his grip, in the end, the traitor, who was strangled by Xiaoshu and had nowhere to go, had to stretch his life in Xiaoshu's hands. Meanwhile, the driver, who was considered a conspirator who committed treason, also eventually died after being shot by Miss Yang Xiaojin after being hit by several shots by her. Well, this cold lady will not give mercy to the traitors who try to finish her off. And thus, the mission given by the palace system was finally accomplished. And here, Xiaoshu got a master-level skill learning paper as a reward. And of course, the skill paper he got this time was different from the previous one, because the previous one was only at the basic level. After getting his prize, Xiaoshu, without lingering, immediately activated the skill paper and activated it for the next target, Xushanchu, to learn one of the master-level skills that the leader has. But because Xushanchu did not have a master-level skill, in the end the system extracted the Shadow Clone ability, which was a superhuman ability possessed by Xushanchu. And of course, without hesitation, Xiaoshu will also place the superhuman skill into the ranks of some non-supernatural skills that he already has. As such, Xiaoshu has now acquired 2 superhuman abilities, Xushanchu's Shadow Clone and a palace system that has magical features and is still full of mysteries. In the incident that occurred, it is known that the motive of the 2 people who intended to attack Xiaoshu and Miss Xiaojin was to seize their weapons. Xushanchu felt that the 2 men deserved to be punished, but not the driver, as he did not think it was possible for the driver to commit such treason. However, the leader will not prolong the matter this time, because for him in this kind of wilderness, there is no right or wrong, especially since their obstinacy is created by the desire to survive. Xiaoshu then dragged the 3 bodies inside the cave and transported them to the outside area. Here, he was also still curious about how the corpse of Xuxia, the mercenary who first died, suddenly disappeared into thin air. Re-entering the cave, Xiaoshu then asked Miss Xiaojin to yell out when things went awry like before. While asleep, Xiaoshu then checked how tough the Shadow Clone skills he had just obtained were. And from here he found that this shadow of himself was not only silly like him, but the clone also had a little fighting ability that was quite useful. Xiaoshu here also asked the palace system whether he needed to consume something so that he could maintain Shadow Clone when activating it. The system replied that if the time of using Shadow Clone will be determined according to the mental strength possessed by Xiaoshu, then the level of mental strength possessed by the MC. Unfortunately, here, Xiaoshu can't get it because he doesn't have the authority to know that yet. The next morning, Xiaoshu then went to Wang Lei to check on the wound. And after checking, it turned out that Wang Lei was now completely healed, and he could walk back to normal without having to be transported and become a burden to the team. Being able to remove external wounds in a fairly short time, of course, made Xushanchu feel interested in the medicine owned by Xiaoshu. But here, Xiaoshu said that the medicine had run out, but when the leader asked if he had money, Xiaoshu immediately said that the medicine was still ready. Xianchu himself got the money after he checked the equipment of the 3 people who had died last night. This fact made the MC feel annoyed because he did not check the 3 corpses last night. He also insisted that if the money Xushanchu found from the 3 bodies was his money, then that's why Xushanchu had to hand it over to him. In their current situation, money was not important to Xushanchu, and he would give Xiaoshu all the money he earned if Xiaoshu would give him 1 bottle of medicine. Xiaoshu agreed and quickly took the money from Xushanchu. At the same time, the system also detects if the host or Xiaoshu has enough money to buy access to the main storage area, where this main storage place can be purchased using the money applicable in his world. Of course, this made the MC wonder, why does this palace system still need money when he can't use it or spend it? But whatever it was, because Xiaoshu felt that he needed storage space to store some of his equipment. Without thinking, Xiaoshu immediately bought the storage area with the 20,000 yuan he had.
购买。
However, after buying it, Xiaoshu felt annoyed again. He felt cheated by the palace system because the 20,000 yuan he had painstakingly collected could only buy 1 cubic meter of main storage. Well, but at least it was enough to store 2 bottles of drinking water. Coming out of the cave and re-entering the wilderness, Xiaoshu picked up a twig to clean his teeth. And what Xiaoshu did at that time was immediately carried out by Miss Xiaojin and also Xu Xianchu. These two people always follow what Xiaoshu does in order to survive in the wild. The leader here also explained that the reason why they all had to come out of the cave and resume the journey was because they could not hide in one place, because that was not the solution for them to survive in the future. The 2 people who came out last night would be left behind because the team could not find any trace of the 2 people who came out to smoke last night, and most likely both of them had died. The journey continued with Xu Xianchu taking over as the guide. During their journey, the leader had also explained that inside the Jingsan mountain was a mysterious city that originated from a past civilization, and there might have been evolved animals and new specimens that had yet to be discovered. That's what the people from inside the fort believed. In addition, there is also information that tells us that besides them, there are also other squad teams that are also on their way to Jingsan. On the other hand, it was also explained by Xu Xianchu that there is a group of people who have superpowers and they move in an organized manner in an organization, and they are known as thugs, and it is known that the organization aims to destroy the administrator contained in a fortress. The people who come from this thugs organization are said to have powers that are beyond imagination. That's why the fort administrators are very difficult to catch people from the group. Therefore, to prevent the organization from growing bigger, the administrators or fortress officials took countermeasures by capturing the superhumans who had just awakened. And not only captured, the superhumans who had just been resurrected were also utilized by the fort officials for further research. And it could be that the superhumans who have just been resurrected can also be used by the officials, where they will fight back against the thugs organization by using the power that comes from the superhumans owned by the fort. On the other hand, Xu Xianchu also revealed that he is now no longer able to return to the fort, because after the fortress knows the super ability that he has long hidden, most likely the fortress will not just leave him alone. For this reason, Lu Bu feels that the leader does not need to worry, because all of them there will not reveal the secret if Xu Xianchu is a superhuman. With a sharp gaze, Xu Xianchu emphasized that among all the people there, it was Liu Bu who made him feel the most worried. Of course, a weak boy like him would definitely open his mouth immediately when threatened by the higher-ups of the fortress. In addition, Xu Xianchu also felt that Xiaoshu was a superhuman, and his superhuman ability was to make the people around him feel annoyed because of his behavior. After hearing these words from the leader, Xiaoshu then asked the system if he really had the ability to make people feel annoyed, and the system said yes, and his annoying ability was at the perfect level. Entering further into the forest, some of them then saw that from 12 o'clock, there was a mysterious white figure that looked like a woman in a white dress and was scratching a tree. Sensing that the figure was a threat, the gun holders immediately prepared their respective weapons, while those who could not fight hid in a safe location.
照路吧，也许他不会跟着我。
Along with the wind, the white figure was also seen flying and moving closer and closer to Xiaoshu and the others. Therefore, In order to follow up and investigate what exactly it was, Xu Shanchu would use his shadow clone as a shield, with the rest following behind. The closer they got to the figure, the more tense the situation became.
金宝，
不跟着，歪着。
咱们怎么办？跟上去！啊！等等我！
好，用你的影子困住他，给我们争取集火的时间。这是啥？
And after seeing it clearly, it turned out that the figure was just a very old and strange doll whose shape was unclear.
没见过。
不是壁垒里面的东西吗？等等，还有东西。
Along with that, from another direction, Xiaoshu also found an old tin can that contained a card containing a QR code. Since this QR code only existed in the past and no one knew about it in this era, they all started to express wild opinions after seeing it. Some think that the QR code that looks like a strange pattern is a pattern that contains hidden secrets. There are also those who think it is a map or a maze that shows the direction where the mysterious city of Jingsan is located. And after finding a sentence that reads, "Scan the QR code to make a payment," Lu Bu also wondered if they had to pay first in order to get through the maze. If they were told to pay, of course Xiaoshu wouldn't want to do it. And rather than thinking about complicated things like this, Xu Shanchu felt that they should go back on their way, while the strange doll that they had found earlier would be carried by Liu Bu.
你确定那里有一座神秘的城池？
不然怎么解释静山现在的变化呀？
里面有解开净化之谜的线索？可能是我们想复杂了。
走吧，到了那里才知道。带着吧。
啊，这东西还带着吗？
And that's the ending of the First Order episodes 9 to 10 this time, guys. Thank you for those of you who have watched until the end, and the last word from me. Bye.